This is a Film Stories original podcast.
We made this.
Welcome back, everyone, to the X-Cast. The truth is in here. I am your host, Cortlan Waters Bartley, and today we have a very special guest with us to discuss his work on the X-Files and beyond. Please welcome Gibson Praise himself, Jeff Gulka. Hi, Jeff.
Hello.
So I'm really excited to talk to you today. I have a bunch of fan questions that came in. We have a Facebook group called the X-File or the X-Cast Basement on Facebook. Yeah, so people submitted some questions to me, so I have some fan questions, and I'm going to kind of sprinkle in our conversation. But I thought I would start by asking you about X-Fest, because you and I actually met at X-Fest.
Yes, we did. Chicago. You brought a fold-out chess set and everything.
Yes, I did. I like to take the opportunity to do a fun picture if I can, and it was worth it to carry the chessboard.
Yeah, that was great. It was one of my favorite photo ops of the day.
Well, I'm glad. Happy to oblige. And I was a little embarrassed because I did not research how to set up the chessboard.
That's all good. I figured it out.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that was one of the. I can't remember which fan asked that question. Somebody asked me to make sure I ask you if you know how to play chess.
Yes, a good chess player. I do know how to play chess. I haven't played for several years now, but I used to play with my friends and stuff when we'd just be hanging out. But I don't have super skills at chess, but I understand the game.
No paranormal mind reading abilities to help you out there. So how was the convention for you? Did you have a good time?
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. I had never been to any kind of event like that, so it was a little, not overwhelming, but just crazy to see how many fans there are still. And now that the show's been over for so long, well, I guess it came back, but there's just so many generations of fans now, from people who are older than us and then around our age, and then the younger generation who probably weren't even born when the show first aired. And
I don't like to talk about that.
Me neither. But no, it was really cool, and it was honestly one of the most fulfilling things I've done in a long time, just being able to interact with fans who appreciated things that I've done in the past, and get to hang out with some of the actors again was really fun. Partied a bit with Chris Owens. That was a good time.
Yeah.
And the Enigma.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's it's so good to hear other people having such a fulfilling experience at X-Fest. I mean, I know I enjoyed it as a fan, and I think in general the fans enjoy that convention, but it's always good to hear that you guys enjoy it too.
Yeah, it was super fun. Yeah, I think me and Chris and the Enigma ended up staying up till almost sunrise on the last night outside of the hotel, hanging out with some fans.
Amazing.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah, great time. So what I'd like to kind of talk about Gibson Praise and talk about your experience working on the show.
Yeah.
But I'd like to start with, how you wound up getting that role. How did you wind up becoming Gibson Praise?
Well, there's a bit of a story there. I had done extra work from, I guess, the ages of, I started at 7 years old, and I did a bunch of background work on shows. And then I had worked on the X-Files a couple times as background, but both times my scene got cut. And I remember one of the episodes I did was the one with the Great Mutado or whatever. Is that correct? Mutado?
Yep, the postmodern Prometheus.
Yes. With Chris Owens played that guy. I didn't even know, but he was the Two-Faced guy. Yeah, so I did that one, and then both times my scene got cut, but Chris Carter remembered me and wanted me to specifically come out and audition for Gibson Praise, and I had never gone for an audition with lines or anything. And then, so I went to the audition, and then I got a couple callbacks, and then I think I had to miss a school dance or two. when I had to do the auditions in the middle of the day, which I wasn't very happy about as a child, but looking back, it's okay.
It turned out okay.
It turned out all right. And so then I actually just ended up getting the part in my first audition for a speaking role, and that's how I got it. Chris Carter's got a very good memory with remembering actors and stuff that he uses. So it was very kind of him to remember me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So obviously, if you worked on the show, you were aware of its existence. Did you watch it at all?
I did watch it when I was younger. I remember it scaring the bejesus out of me before bed because it was always on like after Simpsons, I think, on like Sunday night. And so I sometimes stay up and watch it. Sometimes I wouldn't want to get scared, but I also remember being in my room and listening to my parents start watching the show, and the intro music always creeped me out. And I just hear the do 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 do. Oh boy! And I think one of the episodes that kind of not scarred me, but the Fluke Man episode really scared me as a child. And I think I associate that music with that sometimes.
Yeah. Well, the Fluke Man scared me as an adult. So
yeah.
I think that's common.
I can see that.
Common reaction to the Fluke Man.
I was a pretty big fan. And then once I started acting on the show, I kind of watched it a little less because the illusion, a bit of the illusion is gone once you actually work with all the people.
So what was it like working? I mean, how old were you when you were cast?
When did that episode air? 98. So
yes,
11.
Yeah. So you were pretty young. How was it on set as a young person?
It was really cool. You hear a lot of jokes that you don't quite understand. But everybody treats you really nice. And I remember like shooting hoops with David Duchovny. He would always bring like a little mobile basketball hoop wherever we were filming. And everybody treats the kid on set nice. But you overhear a lot of jokes, and you grow up pretty quickly on set.
Sure, I imagine it's a lot of work. You're there for a while. So one really common question that came up with people in our various fan areas that we really wanted me to talk to you about was the day in the big arena filming with all the extras. There are people who remember going as extras to be there. And so I wanted to make sure that's the very first scene that we see with Gibson Praise.
Yeah.
But do you have memories filming that day? What was that like?
I remember it being pretty. I wasn't anxious. As a kid, I didn't really have much anxiety or anything. That kind of comes when you get older and a little more self-conscious. But I remember, just being really cool because I loved the Vancouver Canucks, and I think the Grizzlies were still in town then, and so it was really cool to be able to stand wherever all my favorite teams used to play, and then being in front of about 10,000 people, I think it was, in the stands was you get over your anxiety and stuff pretty quick. And but no, it was really crazy. I don't remember that much because I was 11 years old, but I remember just being right in the middle under the spotlight and just thinking, holy crap.
Yeah, I can. I mean, I think my 11-year-old self definitely would have had the anxiety. So I'm really glad to hear that you did not. One fan, Luke Winch, asked if you had any sense of, because that is when the show was leaving Vancouver. Were you aware of the kind of finality of that, or was there a certain atmosphere of being in kind of the last episode in Vancouver?
Oh, definitely, because most of the crew didn't go down when they went to Los Angeles, so it was sort of like a big feeling like it was the end of something special. So that was really neat to be a part of. And then I had no idea that they'd bring me back or anything, so I just thought it was like a one-off show. And then to get the call back to come back to the beginning was pretty cool. But absolutely, it was a feeling that there was something ending for sure. There's a lot of people, a lot of relationships made on set and stuff like that. And I think it was on for 5 years in Vancouver.
5, and then it moved down after the movie. They moved down into California.
Yeah, and then the vibe kind of changed a bit, a little less hazy down there.
Yeah, different. Easier to get the desert, I guess. Harder to get the forest. So one of the things I just watched this morning, I got up early to watch the end in the beginning. before we sat down to talk. And one of the things I noticed just in those very few episodes is that Gibson Praise earns himself a lot of titles. And some of them are sort of dubious titles. I think Scully calls him a chess wonderkind. And obviously he's a mind reader. He's clairvoyant and all of these things. Then eventually he refers to himself as a very special lab rat.
Yeah.
Yes. And maybe the most important one, he is the key to everything. They refer to him as the key to everything. And so I think he's such an interesting character because he sort of comes in and out at really crucial moments, but we don't really ever see much of him except in these really important and crucial moments. So did you imagine like backstory, or did they give you backstory for Gibson Praise? Like, where does he go when we don't see him?
As a kid, I didn't really concern myself with that. As an older actor now, I would kind of think of all that stuff. But as a kid, I would more just sort of show up and learn the lines, and then the directors give the kids a lot more direction than the adults, because the adults are supposed to do all the work and expected to show up and know what they're doing, but the kids is a little more hands-on. But I definitely got asked a lot, like what he was doing and why you were the key to the X-Files and all that. And but I never really put too much thought into that. I maybe should have. As a young actor, I didn't really think about it. But now looking back, I like to think that I was just definitely hanging out with Mulder, and now I think that I might be a bad guy now, like the comic book storyline goes.
Yeah, actually that's one of the things that came up. A guy named Adam Silva mentioned that in his question for you was, how did that sit with you, becoming a bad guy in the comic series? Oh, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't read the comic series. I think we're fine.
It's been out for a while.
Yeah. How did that sit with you?
Great. No, I really liked it, and it makes a lot of sense. Because I've rewatched the episodes every now and then yeah, I would assume that somebody who keeps getting kidnapped and stuff would get pretty fed up with the FBI not being able to hold on to their assets. And then also he spent a lot of time with the cigarette smoking man in the syndicate. So if he can read minds, I'm sure he knows a lot of stuff that's going on.
Well, yeah. If you happen to also know any of that stuff, it would be great. This would be a great time to share.
I wish I did.
Any of that. I'm just kidding. I did know that's another thing I was kind of chuckling to myself about when I was rewatching some of the Gibson episodes, is that Scully especially he goes missing on Scully's watch just all the time, like immediately. They'll get to the hospital or wherever they're going, and boom, he's missing again. So that doesn't really bode very well.
No, they don't have a very good
experience with Scully.
That's funny. That's interesting. Actually, was that the beginning where they stole me from the hospital and we were driving in an ambulance? Yeah, I think we drove like 4 hours out of Los Angeles to go shoot that specific scene on a strip of highway that was right near the actual Area 51.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and my mom was like, "Well, why are we driving all the way out here to film something in the dark?" That nobody's going to know where we are. It's
really important. No one's going to know.
Yeah, so that scene is shot near the real Area 51, apparently.
Well, that's awesome. It's very topical. I mean, this podcast episode is probably airing much, much later, like months from now, but topical today.
Yeah, there's some sort of raid on Area 51 or something that's going on?
Maybe. We'll see. The internet is a fun place.
Yeah.
So speaking of specific scenes, another one that came up really frequently, and I'm sure you've probably talked about this one before, is in that first episode with Gibson, in the end, he tells Mulder that one of the girls, either Foley or Scully, is thinking of him. And then when Agent Foley asks which one, Gibson says Mulder doesn't want him to say. And everyone would like to know, who do you think was thinking about Mulder?
Well, because Diana Foley just came into the episode, I would assume that it would have been her. Would be my answer.
Okay. Well, I can think of at least one fan who's going to be really excited. He's a big fan of Agent Foley.
Excellent.
But yeah, that's fun. A lot of people are really interested in the love triangle, and
Yeah.
we're pretty sure that Gibson Praise knows all the answers to their
Mm-hmm.
questions about the love triangle.
Oh, definitely.
Been hearing a lot of thoughts. He
Some
probably
of them-
wasn't supposed
Some
to.
of them he probably can't understand.
Well, that's probably true. He also had to grow up really fast.
Yes, I guess that would happen. Being able to read everybody's mind. I really considered that.
I think a lot of people have really specific questions about things that may or may not have happened when you were filming. So one question from Sarah Blair was, did you get to watch a lot of cartoons while you were working? Because Gibson watches a lot of cartoons.
Only when we were filming those scenes, but that was a lot of takes sometimes.
Yeah.
But I was rewatching the exact same clip every time.
Right. Yeah, of course. They're going to play the same we got to have the same clip every time.
Yeah,
So,
mostly on set, I would just play crib with my mom. Yeah, just play card games.
and so I know you mentioned earlier, so you playing crib with your mom, playing hoops with David Duchovny. Do you have any fond memories of working with Jillian or any of the other actors that you got to work with?
Nothing. Well, I mean, obviously, I'm sure there's good memories. It was no. Everybody else was garbage. No.
It was terrible.
Yeah. I remember having some good chuckles in filming Within and Without because Mitch had to carry me in like the 40-degree heat Celsius, 40 degrees Celsius in the desert. I remember that.
Really hot.
Yeah, he was getting a little tired having to carry me. Not so light. And yeah, beyond that, yeah, just hard to kind of really remember fond on-set moments or anything other than just shooting hoops and stuff.
I mean, that's a pretty great memory, though.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And another kind of set-related question from Billy Reed. Did you keep anything from the set, like souvenirs, or get to take anything home with you?
Yeah, I got a couple of my like seat backs that they give you for your chairs. And then we all got these X-Files desert hats with like the big long back to cover your neck. So I got a bunch of that, and then like some T-shirts and stuff like that. I don't think I took any of my wardrobe per se that anybody knows. Mostly just like seat backs and just swag that they give you.
Sure, the normal. You didn't like take any like props or anything like that?
No.
So you mentioned Within and Without. I think those are like the kind of the middle of Gibson's story where he's at school / also hiding in the desert. That's where we kind of get in the middle. And then Gibson's story in the show ends at the end, or at what was the end, not the end anymore, in the truth. So the last thing we see, I think, of Gibson in the truth, he is sort of abandoned on the side of the road with Monica Reyes and John. We just sort of drive away and leave them on the side of the road. So what do you think happened to him after that?
I'm assuming I got kidnapped.
Sure.
Again?
Well, you go missing right away. Yeah. Right. They turned around, already gone.
And then that probably started my my path to the dark side.
Right.
How
straight
I imagine it. Yeah.
Into the comics. I always think that's pretty, which is interesting since in the revival series 10 and 11, Monica Reyes is working with the cigarette smoking man. Yeah. So maybe that all ties together.
It could. I could be pulling the strings now for the syndicate.
Sure. And that's how Monica got tied up with cigarette smoking man.
Yeah, that could be. That makes sense to me.
We solved it.
Yeah.
It's solved. Everyone's been wondering for a long time. We solved it right here.
2 minutes.
Nailed it. So if we had seen more of Gibson's story, is there anything in particular you would have liked to see or do with that character?
I would have liked more, I guess it would be along my path to the dark side, but getting more frustrated and stuff, because a lot of my scenes I'm very deadpan. It would have been nice to be able to be more emotional and stuff like that, show that side of him. I remember they cut one scene that I was really proud of. Everybody clapped afterward. I think it was, I guess it was maybe in Within or Without, but there was a scene where I was in some house and then somebody came to kidnap me, and I was really scared, and it was like this really great scene, and everybody clapped after, and then that never made it to the final product.
Oh.
But that's part of the biz.
Yeah, you're right. I do find that Gibson scenes are pretty quiet. They're pretty quiet. I mean, especially for a kid.
Yeah.
He's again grew up really quickly. Fits right in with all the grown-ups.
Yeah.
So I think kind of spinning that into the comics a little bit, he basically starts his own version of the Syndicate, I guess.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I never
books.
actually read them. I just saw some of the covers. The man with glasses.
Yeah, well, he sort of it's it's the X-Files, so it's a little bit convoluted, but my understanding is that he's basically schemed to restart his own version of the Syndicate.
Mm-hmm.
And that Gibson, is responsible for resurrecting the cigarette smoking man over and over again as a clone.
Oh.
And that explains why the smoking man keeps coming back.
Yeah, he's gone
So
through
again,
a few apocalyptic events.
He has. So he's bringing him back and bringing him back. We solved that again. Gibson Praise, key to everything, solving all the problems. And so is that? I mean, I know we've kind of already touched on how Gibson might have gotten fed up with his experience, but can you see him as the bad guy? Like,
oh, absolutely.
Kind of working against them? Like, what would that look like for you?
Yeah, I could see, if it's not working with the Syndicate, making my own thing, I could get behind that. I like the idea of him being a villain, and I think it's cool that he's not part of the Syndicate then, and then I can get my revenge on all of them, all parties concerned who can't watch me or who keep kidnapping me.
Yeah, I can't remember. I read the comics quite a long time ago, and I can't remember exactly, but he's definitely he's like the man behind the curtain in the comic books, but I don't think he has very many direct like altercations with Mulder or Scully, which is too bad because it seems like maybe they have it coming a little bit. They lose him pretty frequently.
And I could see also maybe going a little crazy with hearing all those voices for so long. Maybe I just want to kill everybody and get some sleep.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that I was going to talk to you. You mentioned that you had like a lot of more hands-on direction. Did they give you direction about like what that would look like or what that should feel like or look like as you were acting it?
Mostly it was just sort of like when you're a kid, if you forget your lines, they just tell you how to read and they do more sort of line readings for you. And then as a child actor, I never really put that much thought into it. I was just doing what I was told and being a good boy, following directions.
Sure. Well, you did it admirably.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
I try to imagine like what it must be like. I mean, because there's really only one scene I think where we, I guess, get from Gibson's perspective. It's kind of like almost like a radio static kind of thing where there are all these voices and you can kind of only hear, little bits and pieces.
Right. Yeah, that's like.
And it must be a horrible way to exist.
Yeah. You're constantly hearing that all the time, no matter which way you turn your head. Different radio frequency.
And especially if you're in a room with 10,000 people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That must be horrible. That must be a horrible way to live. And I guess Mulder gets that a little bit later in the show
right.
too. So I guess what was your sort of overall impression of working on the show, or how has that informed what you've done since then, or?
Well, it was an amazing opportunity as a kid. I got to travel down to LA because the show moved down there, so that was really cool. I learned a lot about the business, the ins and outs, and I got a lot of like cool opportunities because I had to do schoolwork and stuff while I was there, a certain amount of school hours a day, but often we could just pawn it off for like field trips and stuff. So we went to like the La Brea Tar Pits and the Rose Bowl, and so that was pretty cool to see all that stuff. And then when we did Within and Without, because I was at a school for the deaf, and then a lot of the extras were actually deaf extras, so they taught me some sign language so I could communicate with them. So I had like a tutor for sign language and actually spent like a whole day at like a deaf high school, which was really cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so just a lot of opportunities you wouldn't think would happen when you're becoming an actor. And then I get to see different parts of the world, and it was definitely really cool.
That sounds really interesting. I didn't really think about, or I guess I hadn't really thought about working at the school for the deaf. So that's really cool thing to know.
Yeah, I'd actually even completely forgot about it until like a couple weeks ago. I was like, oh, all right. I went to a deaf school for a day.
We kind of talked about this, but not really specifically. Do you have any really funny memories or moments from working on the show? Like anything really like funny that happened while you were shooting?
One memory I have was for the beginning, right? Because it was that alien guy who was in the water or whatever. Shed to become a gray alien or whatever. And I remember hanging out with the guy as he was in the before he sheds, and he's in like the big tall alien suit, and it's got like animatronic eyes and everything. He's like all dripping, and then we made a little pact to try to scare my mom. And so I went over to like the area where she was like sitting, and I was just kind of casually talking to her, and then he snuck up behind her, and then I like looked behind her and started with a worried look, and she turned around to see what I was looking at, and then he was just like staring at her, dripping wet. This big creepy alien guy screamed.
That's a really fun memory for your mom too.
Yeah, and then other funny thing. Well, mostly just like when you forget your lines and stuff. It's always kind of funny when you're a kid. Not so much when you're an adult, but when you're a kid, you don't really care.
Right. Less pressure, I guess.
Yeah.
That question, I forgot to say that question was from Annie. So thank you, Annie, for your funny question. And then just sort of after the X-Files was over, what have you been up to since then? And do you have anything that you want, like any upcoming works that you want to talk about?
Well, after the beginning, my agent retired because I just had it was my extras agent because I got the part when I was doing extra work. And then she retired, and then I was kind of missing a lot of school and not being able to party with my friends because I was in high school now. So I kind of took a break from it. And then I learned keyboard, piano, and organ and stuff, and played in a band for about 10 years. And then once the X-Files announced that they were coming back, I thought, maybe I should take some classes just in case they call me back. I don't want to look a fool. And then as soon as I started taking classes, I immediately fell right back into love with acting. And since then, I've been kind of hitting it a little hard as much as I can. But I've just got a few one-liners here and there in the last few years since I started again. And I just worked. I don't think I can say my roles, but I'm sure I can say the shows that I did. And I did what was it? Van Helsing, which is coming out. I just did a one-liner at the very beginning of an episode in season 4, and then I just finished working on revival or reboot, I don't know, of Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Oh, fun.
Yeah, so that was really cool. I just finished that on Monday. But I don't think I can talk about the actual roles or anything. It's nothing big, but you sign a bunch of stuff, so you can't give out too many details.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Oh, that's understandable. I don't even think I knew that one was officially coming back.
Yeah, they're doing like exciting. I think a 3-episode miniseries tied into a feature film for Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Wow, cool.
Yeah.
I feel like that's people who are listening to the Xcast will be excited to learn that. It seems like there's probably some overlap there.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And actually, somebody I worked with was in the episode with the Great Mutado. We were talking about our experience on the X-Files set on the same episode because we were in the same one. I think he was a guy who said like the barn's burning down or something.
Mm-hmm. Oh, right. Yeah. That's a fun and crazy episode. I'm sure that was a crazy kind of set to be on too.
Yeah, it was really weird. Yeah. I had to break earlier because you can only keep like kids till midnight or whatever. But I was like sort of in the crowd as they were like singing on stage or something. And a lot of interesting costumes and stuff for that one.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. But if they were singing on stage, that means you were actually there for it's one of my favorite scenes in the whole show, which ultimately it's Mulder and Scully dancing to Cher.
Yeah,
But
I was
yeah,
there.
that's
I
it's
was
one of
there
my
in the
favorite
background.
2 minutes. It's one of my favorite 2-minute clips. You're there somewhere. I'll look for you next time I'll be like, where is he? He's back
Oh,
there
my
somewhere.
part I got cut.
Oh, sure. You're still there. You're there somewhere.
In spirit.
Well, I think, do you want to plug social media? Where can people find you if they have their own
basically
questions?
just do Twitter. I'm on Facebook as well, but I don't usually go on that, and I don't have the app because there's just too many notifications that keep popping up. But I do the Twitter sphere. I've been told I should get an Instagram, but I just don't like taking pictures of myself that much.
What's your handle on Twitter?
It's just Jeff Gulka.
Well, thank you so much for talking to me today.
Oh, my
This
pleasure.
was pretty painless, pretty easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I had a couple things I wanted to say.
Oh, great. Yeah, go for it.
People who were at X Fest.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, I noticed after signing autographs, I had some ink and stuff on my pinky, and I apologize to anybody who may have got a smudged autograph.
You know who you are out there somewhere.
Yeah, and then the person who got the very first photo op, you have a rare picture of me not knowing what I'm doing. My very first photo op, and yeah, my sister was there too, and she, after the whole thing, she's like, that first photo you took, Jeff, was really awkward. And I had no idea what I was doing, and the guy came in, and I just shook his hand, and then I just kind of stood beside him with my hands in front of me. And then after they took the picture, I was like, that kind of felt weird. I should maybe put my arms around people.
Sure.
So that guy's got a rare photo.
Okay. Well, if you're out there, person who was the first photo in Jeff's photo op, say hi on social media somewhere.
And then there was one time, I don't know if it actually happened per se, but there was a girl who came up and gave some tickets or whatever for an autograph and picture, and then she was kind of standing there, and I don't know if I remembered to actually get the selfie with her, and then it looked like she was kind of waiting, and then she just walked away. Hopefully that wasn't the case, and I didn't mess up there, but if you didn't get a picture, then next time you get a free one.
Oh, I'm sure it turned out okay.
Oh yeah, and then I had I just wanted to say that Annabeth Gish might think that I don't like her, but that's not the case. It just weird. The only time I talked to her the whole time, it was in the lunchroom in between or in the middle of the convention, and I was pretty hungry, and I was just kind of making my way to the sandwiches, and we hadn't talked yet. And then she said, or my whole thing whenever I'd meet people was like, hey, you probably don't recognize me, but I played Gibson Praise. And then I was just walking past. She's like, oh, hi, we haven't met yet. And then I was just like, oh, I'm Jeff. I play Gibson. And then I just walked away. And so she thought I thought she didn't recognize me or something. That was just a funny interaction, but yeah.
Well, maybe it was actually just because, I mean, she probably lost you on the side of a road at the end of the truth. So, to be honest, no, I'm just. I love Annabeth. She is awesome. So if she's listening to this interview, also, you're awesome. And sorry.
And I apologize for our interaction.
Right. There we go. Okay. Well, it was really great to talk to you today.
You will.
I hope you great. I hope you have an excellent rest of your day, your afternoon. And thanks everyone for listening. And remember, trust no one.
Elsewhere on We Made This. We dig music.
I got given a set of mindfulness cards as a Christmas present.
Okay.
And it's a load of fucking bollocks, it really is.
Is it like, with them being cards, I've got them this image of them being Brian Eno's Oblique Strategies, but with go and read a book or something like that.
Yeah, pretty much. But so these cards, you read them one a day and you're meant to do the tasks. And the task on one day was...
Listen to Bruce Springsteen.
Go and listen to a piece of music that you haven't heard before and listen to it without any prejudice, regardless of genre. And I'm like, have you met me? That isn't possible.
I do that every day anyway.
So I went and listened to something I hadn't heard before and didn't know what genre it was going to be because it was from a set of polls on Twitter. And I listened to this song. It was about someone and obsessive thoughts and worrying they were going to start cutting themselves. And I'm thinking, well, this isn't very mindful.
Chucky Vision, a Chucky podcast.
I'm vaguely familiar with point horror.
Did you ever read any?
Maybe as a kid, but I don't know them as well as I do Goosebumps.
Right, okay. But how do you feel the kind of adaptation from the books to the series worked? Were they direct adaptations of the books, or were they more inspired by continuation of?
They were pretty direct, actually. There's 60 books or so, or at least in the original run. He always did those Goosebumps 2000 and stuff. He was always updating the titles, which, I mean, God knows what kids are reading these days. I don't know if they're reading the original books.
Gotham U, a Batman podcast.
Hear what you're saying, and I can't help but think, is it just nostalgia that's giving Michael Keaton the pass on this? But also, it's not his fault. Warner Brothers came and gave him a check and was like, hey, be Batman. What's he gonna do? Say no?
No, not at all. And Michael Keaton himself even loved being Batman. He did an interview not too long ago. I don't remember what the interview was, but he was talking about coming back, and he described why he didn't do Batman forever. And, for years there have been speculations, there have been rumors, and he put it to rest, and what everyone said was true. He just didn't like the direction that Warner Brothers was going with the Bat franchise.
Check out all of these shows and more on the We Made This podcast network. The X-Cast and X-Files podcast was created by Tony Black and is produced and hosted by Carl Sweeney, Sarah Blair and Kurt North.
You can find the podcast on Twitter at the X_cast, on Facebook by typing in the X-Cast, and in our group, X-Files Basement, the X-Cast podcast fan group, and on Instagram at the X-Cast pod.
Don't forget, you can support the show by becoming a member on Patreon. Our patrons get early access to episodes, behind-the-scenes chats with our hosts and a thriving community of X-Files, and other premium interviews and specials. To find out more and subscribe, you can go to patreon.com/thexcast. That's patreon.com/thexcast.
We are also part of the We Made This podcast network, full of popular culture shows, including our Millennium series, The Time Is Now. You can find all of our shows at our website, wemadethispod.com, or via Twitter at wemadethispod.
Thanks for listening and keep watching the skies.